Hello, I'm here with my March books. It's April, so I didn't fail. I'm a little bit late. I got five done again this month. Um, I don't know about April. Might be a struggle because I am going to try to read Les Mis, and I just feel like it's going to be like an undertaking. So I'll do the best I can. Um, First book I read was I don't know where I put it. It's around here somewhere, but I don't know where I put it. It is Peace is Every Step, The Path of Mindfulness in Everyday Life by, I don't know how to say his name. I think it's Nhat Hanh, ThichNhatHanh, maybe. I tried. It is from like a Buddhist perspective of how to like practice mindfulness in your everyday life. Kind of cool story. Um, when when I was little, I was in a car accident, and uh, it was with my mom and my grandma, and my dad had been in Peoria, and he'd apparently been at a bookstore, and so he gave me these books to borrow because I've been like into mindfulness since I have started going to therapy, just reading up on mindfulness and trying to be more mindful. And so he gave me these three books, all by the same guy, that are about mindfulness and uh, just kind of the Buddhist way of seeing life. And when I opened it, he apparently had been using the receipt as a bookmark, and he bought it on the day that the accident was, which I thought was like kind of weird. It could have been any day, but it was that day. Um, so it's just basically a bunch of little, I guess you could call them meditations, like a couple pages long of stories to kind of put your mind into perspective. Um, the guy is like really calm. The forward was by the Dalai Lama, so the Dalai Lama apparently likes this guy a lot, and it was I'm jealous of this guy. I wish I could be a little better at mindfulness, but I do my best. I gave it a 4. It's not like something that you would just like sit down and read, but it was like a nice thing to read before bed at night. Just kind of be like, oh, look at all these peaceful, tranquil ideas to kind of run through your head right before you go to bed, instead of reading like one of my normal books, like something scary right before I go to bed. The second book I read was for book club that my mom and I went to this month, or last month now. Um, it's a horror book club, but I don't know that I would necessarily classify this as being horror. It's called Plain Bad Heroines, and it's by Emily M. Danforth. It's hefty. I remember when this came out, I saw it at Barnes and Noble in like the new hardback section and picked it up, and I was like, nope, can't do it. So I waited until it came out in paperback, but it was good. It was two parts, uh, essentially. Um, one part being the early 1900s. This woman is the headmistress or principal of um, a boarding school, a girls' school, where some bad things start to happen, and it's kind of like a mystery of why these things are happening. And then you flash forward, and it's like a crew that's making a movie about what happened then. So it's like 1900s, and I think it was like 2014, so like present day. Um, it was good. It was on the back. It says recommended for fans of queer kissing, Victorian romance, ghost stories, and Hollywood hijinks. Um, that I don't know if I would consider this horror, but there were a couple good scary ghost scenes. Um, it's mostly girls. I mean, all the main characters are girls. Um, there's one character that I hated the entire time. I just couldn't stand her. There were a couple other characters that I grew to like a lot, and there were a couple that I just liked the whole time. Uh, it was long, um, and in the heat of the moment, I gave it 3 stars. But I feel like it genuinely deserves 4. The ending just was meh. And I've realized since I've been doing this that my ratings sometimes depend way too much on the ending. So I don't think my 3 stars was accurate or fair, because overall, like, this much of the book was like really good, and this much of the book was like, eh. Um, but it was. I feel like it's implied that when you enjoy reading, you look forward to reading your book, but that's not always true for me. Sometimes I'm like, yep, I'm gonna read today. This book I was like looking forward to coming home and reading and finishing it and getting to the next part. And there's little illustrations, which is fun, and it's written really well. I liked it. So I would probably amend my ranking as a 4 star instead of 3. I was just a in the moment thing. Next was one that everybody had been telling me that I had to read, and one of my kids' moms sent me a copy because I had to read it. It is Verity by Colleen Hoover. This was my first Colleen Hoover book. I had never read anything by her before. She's not really my thing. I get that it's her stuff's kind of thrillery, but like it's domestic, if that makes sense. It's always like family, the wife or the husband is, you know. This one was surprisingly decent. Um, I have things that I really liked about it and things that I did not like about it. So, I liked that it was quick paced and that it was written in 2 different perspectives. So, it's about an author who is tapped to ghostwrite a series or finish a series for an author who was in an accident and is like not paralyzed, but she's not in any state to finish writing the books. She's like unresponsive and living at home. And the person who asked is the woman's husband. So obviously, there's going to be some sort of like love interest there, which spoiler, there's love interest. But the other, so it's written from the perspective of the author who's going to be ghostwriting, but it's also written from the perspective of the author who was in the accident, in like manuscript style. So like she wrote this like autobiography, that now the new author is reading, to try to like better understand, uh, the author's name is Verity. So to better understand Verity, she's reading her manuscript. And the manuscript is full of secrets, of course, because what love thriller would not be full of secrets. And she's, of course, just had to move out of her apartment because she's so terribly broke, and this money's going to be what carries her through to her next apartment. So she's having to live with the husband, the wife, and their kid. So, you know, I liked it. I liked the storyline. I liked that it was. I liked it. I did not think, and this is just me, I did not think that the amount of intimacy was necessary. Like, after a certain extent, it seems like you're pandering for, like, a certain audience, and I am not that audience. So it was like, I don't know. There's some people who are going to eat this crap up, obviously. This is like a bestseller. But that could have been, let's say there were like 10 chapters including intimacy. It could have easily been 5. But that's just me. I know there's tons of people who she writes that stuff and people love it, and that's awesome. Whatever floats your boat, man. You read what you want to read and enjoy it. More power to you. I don't know if I mentioned this, but I gave it 4 stars. The ending was twisty. I like twisty. But it I don't want to say it wasn't twisty enough because it was pretty twisty, but it was just I don't, it's just not my forte, if you get what I'm saying. Like I went into it, it's got the word creepy in the blurb on the cover. When I hear creepy, I want some creeps, and it wasn't creepy, I wouldn't say. Definitely a thriller, definitely lots of twists, definitely perfect for an audience of people who liked Gone Girl and books like that, where they want the kind of femme fatale, um, twisted ending. Good, 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 good. Just not like my 100% favorite. 4 stars is still really good though. My next book was one that my mom recommended me, and she bought it. That's why it's hardcover. I'm not going to buy hardcover books unless it's like something that's really important. And it is called Electable: Why America Hasn't Put a Woman in the White House Yet. It is by Ali Vitali. She is a correspondent, a Capitol Hill correspondent for NBC News, and she was on the campaign trail in, if I understand correctly, she was on the campaign trail in 2016 with Trump, and then in 2020 she was with, um, she was kind of covering everybody. So she has a lot of information on. There's a lot of coverage about like Elizabeth Warren, Amy Klobuchar. They talk a little bit about Kamala Harris. She has interviews with Hillary Clinton, and just she has since she's a reporter, she has some good insights. Um, and there were a couple things that I was really interested by. The first thing was, so I just think it's interesting that because sex scandals happen in government. Sorry, my computer's going crazy. Um, and the way both parties address them is different. I feel like I remember when the New York guy Andrew Cuomo, I think, when he was in the middle of his scandal, we were all just like, "Get out of here, man! Like you don't belong there." But then it's like when um like Trump has had all of his allegations, it's kind of like it's just swept away or tried to like it's not that big of a deal or whatever. So one of them was like about that. It said Gillibrand, for example, she was a person who ran at that time, was dogged by a decision that predated her presidential campaign. Voters across Iowa and New Hampshire, where Gillibrand spent most of her 5.5 months campaigning, told me they were mad at her for saying that former Minnesota Democratic Senator Al Franken should resign his seat in 2017 after more than half a dozen women alleged that he inappropriately touched or kissed them. Ultimately, 36 of his fellow Democrats in the Senate called for him to resign before an ethics investigation could take place. Some said it was Democrats eating their own, subjecting themselves to rules Republicans would never govern themselves with. To others, it was the party living their values even when it meant going against a colleague. And I think it's just I think it's interesting how like parties will stick up for people who do wrong. Like it's turned into like the mafia or something. It's like if you do something wrong, you shouldn't be in that position. You know, it probably started with what's his face, Clinton. You know, with the whole what's her name. I was alive back then. I just can't remember Monica Lewinsky, I think. Probably started there, and it's just like we should be able to hold our public officials to a higher standard. And it's interesting how the parties had just totally sometimes will try to protect a person even after all that. And then the other thing that I liked was maybe if I can find it. I should have highlighted it or something. Oh, she was talking about like talking to one of her male um coworkers. They would like call and see what was and wasn't okay to say about Kamala when they were like doing a story on her, and she said, "Can I say Kamala looked great?" The callers, mostly men, would ask. Okay, she'd reply. If you can say that about Joe Biden, then go for it. If not, then no. Can I say she looked tired? They'd inquire. Okay, she'd say, if you'll also say it about Trump. I just thought it was interesting how, like, some things that we use to talk about women are not things that we would commonly use to talk about men, at least in politics. Just thought it was interesting. Anyways, interesting book, interesting take. She has an interesting perspective on who she thinks the first female, um, or what party she thinks the first female will be elected in. She looks back at Geraldine Ferraro, Ferraro, when she was up for vice president. She looks at Sarah Palin when she was up for vice president, and just like kind of a look at how women are put under a microscope. Not that men aren't when it comes to presidency, and not that they shouldn't be, but in ways that are more subjective than what we think of for men. Good book. I gave it 5 because it was very well written. She did a great job. She had a lot of um, political experts on both sides, politicians from both sides, um, talk about what they think is up with that. And lastly, it was my audiobook. I read slash listened to Wrong Place, Wrong Time by Gillian McAllister. And it was recommended to me by my friend Liz. And it was good. I gave it 4 stars. It was about a woman. I don't want to give too much away. It was about a woman who sees her son commit a crime and is catapulted backwards into time to try to kind of like figure out what was happening. And it's about her like trying to figure out what she's even supposed to be doing and why it happened in the first place. I don't want to give out any more than that. There were several points in the book where I was like I was in the car driving, but my jaw dropped listening to it because I was like, what? And it has a happy ending, like a good ending, solid ending. Ties up the loose ends, which is apparently one of my biggest things. So those are my 5 books. I don't remember if I said, but I gave that one 4 stars. Sorry, it's after school, so I'm a little brain fried. But yes, so this month I am working on a Stephen King, and then I'm hoping to get through Les Mis, but probably won't happen before May. Then I have a couple others going, so hopefully it won't just be the Stephen King one I'm talking to you about next time, but those are my 5 today and for March. And let me know if you have any books that you've been reading that you think are fantastic or terrifying or hilarious, and I will check them out. Bye.